تجزعي.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his blessed book, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين. O those of you who believe, be upholders of justice, be witnesses for Allah, even if it's not in your self-interest or the interest of your mother, your father, your brothers, your sisters. لا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى. Let not the hatred of a people incite you to be unjust, O Muslimano. Always be just and stand for justice. وَأَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى is close to piety. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, قُلِ الْحَقِّ وَلَوْ كَانَ مُرًّا ادْعُ إِلَى سَبِيلِ رَبِّكَ بِالْحِكْمَةِ وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ. It's your responsibility that you invite towards Allah. And when you invite towards Allah, you use wisdom, hikmat. But at the same time, قُلِ الْحَقِّ. You will always speak the truth. وَلَوْ كَانَ مُرًّا. Whether people like it or people do not like it. You yourself will always speak the truth. And when you speak the truth, naturally, people don't like listening to what is haqq. You'll get backlash. You'll get criticism. لا نخاف في الله لومة لاعب. As believers, in Allah's way, we do not fear the reproach and the criticism of the critics. Don't fear when speaking the haqq and the truth that you will lose your job and as a result you will be affected. Why? وَمَا مِن دَابَةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا يَعْلَمُ مُسْتَقَرَّهَا وَمُسْتَوْدَعَهَا. Your employer, your boss, doesn't provide for you. Your provider is the Almighty Allah. He's taken the responsibility of providing for every human, for every jinn, for every animal, for every bird, for every insect, for every fish within this multiverse. If the entire universe gets together to withhold one morsel, every single human being, every single jinn within the multiverse gets together to withhold one morsel which Allah has destined that you receive, they will not be able to withhold it from you. You will receive that before you leave this world. So do not fear when you speak the truth that you will lose the dunya, you will lose your sustenance and your rizq, for Allah takes care of your rizq and all your affairs. Prophet ﷺ said, أفضل الجهاد كلمة حق عند سلطان جائر. The best form of jihad. What is the best form of jihad? That you speak the truth in the presence of a zalim king. Why is this one of the best forms of jihad, speaking the truth in the presence of a zalim king? When a person goes out to elevate the kalima la ilaha illallah in the battlefield, my young friends, there's no guarantee that he will receive martyrdom. You go out to elevate the kalima la ilaha illallah, there's a chance that you will receive martyrdom, and there's a chance that you will return alive, be it with mali ghanimat booty or be it without mali ghanimat. But speaking the truth in the presence of a zalim king, a king known for his oppression and his zulm and his injustice, and you speak haqq in his presence, the chances are that you will only return as a martyr. And why is this the best form of jihad? Because if you do not speak the truth, this will just encourage his injustice and his oppression, and it will never come to an end. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Al-Muslim akhul Muslim, yakuffu alayhi dhay'atahu wa yahutuhu min wara'ihi." All Muslims are brothers. A Muslim never abandons his brother. He never allows him to go to waste. Rather, he helps him. He supports him. He responds to his call and cry. Why? Al-Muslimun al-Mu'minun karajulin wahidin in ishtaka aynuhu ishtaka kullu wa in ishtaka ra'su ishtaka kullu. The entire ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is like one single body. If any one limb of this body is in pain, then the entire body feels that pain. If the head is in pain, then the entire body feels the pain of that limb. If the eye is in pain, the entire body feels that pain. If one Muslim is in pain, if a Palestinian is in pain, then the Pakistani thousands of miles away in Pakistan will feel that pain. A Chinese Muslim thousands of miles away in China will feel that pain. A Muslim in America, thousands of miles away, will feel that pain. If any one limb is in pain, the entire body feels the pain. You know, on the internet you'll get that the yellow one is Masjid al-Sakhra and the one with the grey dome is Masjid al-No. It's the piece of land which is all around 150,000 square meters. That is Masjid al-Aqsa. That piece of land is sacred land. What's so special about Masjid al-Aqsa? That they prepared to sacrifice their children and have been sacrificing their children for over 75 years. When the Prophet ﷺ was asked, which is the first masjid that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed on the earth, what did the Prophet ﷺ say? Which was the first masjid that was built? The Prophet ﷺ said, Masjid al-Haram. Then the Prophet ﷺ was asked, which was the second masjid that was built on the dunya? The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that after 40 years, after Masjid al-Haram, Masjid al-Aqsa was built. It's the second masjid that was built on the earth. And it was the first qibla of the believers. Some scholars say the first qibla was the Holy Kaaba. Some scholars say no. The first qibla was Masjid al-Aqsa. The Prophet ﷺ prayed towards Masjid al-Aqsa whilst he was in Makkah. And he prayed towards Masjid al-Aqsa whilst he was in Medina. 16 to 17 months the Prophet ﷺ faced towards Masjid al-Aqsa. But in his heart the Prophet ﷺ always had this burning desire to face the Holy Kaaba. And what the Prophet ﷺ would do is, when he would finish prayer, every now and then he would look towards the heaven, waiting. Okay, one day maybe Allah will order us to face Masjid Haram, the Holy Kaaba. And one day the verse was revealed, فَلَنُوَلِّيَنَّكَ قِبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. O Muhammad, we will turn you to the Qibla that you so wish to follow. And the Prophet ﷺ had gone to the Banu Salama to visit the mother of Bara ibn Azib radiallahu ta'ala, and she was ill. He was reading Zuhr namaz inside that masjid when the hukum came to change. The Prophet ﷺ was reading Zuhr namaz. He read 2 rakats towards Baytul Maqdis. The hukum came, and inside namaz the Prophet ﷺ turned to Baytullah. That's why that masjid is called Masjid Qiblatayn. Then the Prophet ﷺ went from there back to Masjid Nabi ﷺ, and he delivered a sermon, and he was telling the Sahaba that the Qibla has changed. There was a Sahabi outside by the name of Sa'id. He heard the Prophet ﷺ saying this, so he wanted to be the first person to read namaz towards the new Qibla. So he quickly read 2 rakats towards Baytullah, and then the Prophet ﷺ read Asr namaz, and he read behind the Prophet ﷺ, and this was the first namaz that was read towards the new Qibla. And after this, the people of Banu Harisa were informed, and then the people of Masjid Quba were informed in Fajr Salah, where they also turned towards the new Qibla. The point that I'm making is, this was the first Qibla. How long did the Prophet ﷺ pray towards this Qibla? How long was he in Makkah for? 13 years. How long in Medina? 16 months. That's around a year and a half. How long was his prophethood? He received prophet at the age of 40. He died at the age of 63. 23 years. 13 and 1.5. It's 14 and a half. It's around 60%, 2/3 of his life. The Prophet ﷺ read namaz towards Masjid Aqsa. This is the place, my young friends, in which the Prophet ﷺ on the night of Mi'raj, Subhanalladhi asra bi abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-haram, when Allah honored our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ like Allah has never honored any other Nabi. Musa was called to Mount Tur to converse with Allah, whereas the Prophet ﷺ was called to the heavens to converse with him. And some ulama go as far as saying that the Prophet ﷺ actually saw Allah on that night. From Masjid Haram, he went to Masjid Aqsa, and look at the honor that the Prophet ﷺ received. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent around 124,000 prophets. Only Allah knows the exact number. Every single one of them, when the Prophet ﷺ was taken to Masjid Aqsa, they were there. And they were waiting for the Prophet ﷺ in the masjid. And the adhan was called. And when the adhan was finished and it was time for salah, who received the honor of leading every prophet in prayer? None other than your Nabi and my Nabi, Sayyid al-Awwaleen wal-Akhirin, rahmatul lil alameen. This Ajiz Fakir doesn't know of any time since Allah's created this dunya that in any one place in the dunya, I'm not talking about alami arwah, in the dunya, where in any one place you had every single prophet from Adam alayhi salatu was salam up to including our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How blessed do you think that place is, where every single prophet assembled at one time? How blessed do you think it is? Why else do you think Allah says, Subhanalladhi asra bi abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-haram alladhi barakna hawlahu? So many blessings in that place. But in one hadith that is mentioned, there's not a single span in that masjid where a prophet hasn't prayed or an angel hasn't stood up. Prophet ﷺ said, لا تشد الرحال إلا إلى ثلاثة مساجد. All masjids are Allah's houses. They're the same. When it comes to worship, you worship in this masjid, you'll get the sawab. You worship in the masjid a few streets, you'll get the same sawab. So a person can't travel to a different masjid to earn reward, because all masajid, anna al-masajid lillah, they're all for Allah, they're the same. Except for 3 masjids, they're an exception. Masjid Haram, the barakat there are completely different. Namaz there is 100,000 according to one hadith. Masjid Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is blessed because this is the masjid of my Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some hadith is 50,000, some hadith is 1,000. Masjid Aqsa, if Masjid Nabi is 1,000, then Masjid Aqsa is 500. For every namaz that you read there, the reward that you will receive is 500. How many verses in the book of Allah and these incidents that have taken place took place in that blessed land? Open the book of Allah. How many verses? Surah Maryam comes to mind. Kafa ya insa dhikru rahmati rabbika abdahu Zakaria. Allah talks about Zakaria. Allah talks about إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا, when he called upon Allah very quietly. إِنِّي وَهَنَ الْأَظْمُ مِنِّي وَاشْتَعَلَ الرَّأْسُ شَيْبًا وَلَمْ أَكُنْ بِدُعَائِكَ رَبِّ شَقِيًّا. He's making dua to Allah. Oh Allah, look at me. My bones have become weak, crackling, I'm old. Oh Allah, my hair has turned green. My wife is aqira, she's barren, she can't give birth. فَحَبْلِ مِن لَدُنْكَ وَلِيًّا يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ. Oh Allah, I need somebody to carry on this work after me. Oh Allah, give me a son. And Allah said, Ya Zakaria, inna nubashshiruka bi ghulamin ismuhu Yahya lam naj'al lahu min qablu samia. All these verses, where did this take place? In the blessed land of Sham, Palestine. Look at the next ruku. واذكر في الكتاب مريم إذا انتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا فاتخذت من دونهم حجابا فأرسلنا إليها روحنا فتمثل لها بشرا سويا. As Maryam alayhi salam went to the eastern house to take a bath of menses, she screened herself. Jibreel Amin appears before her in a human form. She's afraid. She says, I seek Allah's protection from you. And Jibreel tells her, I'm not a human being. I'm an angel of Allah. Allah sent me to give you a child. She says, how can I have a child? No human has touched me. وَلَمْ يَمْسَسْنِي بَشَرٌ وَلَمْ أَكُ بَغِيًّا. I'm not a bad woman. He says, Allah said, is it easy for me? Whenever I desire anything, I say, be, and it happens. Where did all this take place? When she came and people accused her of zina, and she pointed to her son, and he responded, Inni Abdullah atani al-kitaba wa ja'alani nabiyya wa ja'alani mubarakan aynama kunt. Where did all this take place? Ya Isa inni mutawaffika wa rafi'uka ilayya wa matahir. Where did all this take place? ربنا أنزل علينا مائدة من السماء تكون لنا عيدا لأولنا وآخرنا. Where did this take place? إذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله اصطفاك وطهرك واصطفاك. Where did all this take place? كلما دخل علي زكريا المحراب وجد عندها رزقا قال يا مريم أن لك هذا. Where did this all take place? إذ تصور المحراب إذ دخلوا على داود ففزع منهم. Where did all this take place? The story of Dawood alayhi salam, وما كفر سليمان ولكن الشياطين كفروا. The stories of Dawood. Where did all this take place? In this blessed land. How many Anbiya are buried there? Only Allah knows. Ibrahim is buried there. Ishaq is buried there. Yaqub is buried there. Sulaiman is buried there. Dawood alayhi salatu wasalam is buried there. And my young friends, this is where people will be gathered on the day of judgment. It is because of this. It is because of this. And only this. These people and Muslims, our brethren of Palestine, are laying down their lives. They're sacrificing their children. They're sacrificing their mothers, their brothers, and their sisters. Only and only for this and nothing else. This story didn't start a fortnight ago. This story started a very long time ago. And only Allah and Allah alone knows when this will end. My young friends, we have a responsibility towards our brethren. What can we do? You've got a lot of videos going around with regards to do this, do this, do this, do this. The most important thing that you and I can do, everything else, if it's within the perimeters of the deen, within the boundaries of the deen, if you can do it, do it. Whether it's signing petitions, whether it's going out on protests, whether it's writing to your MPs, whether it's, Twitter bashing, sending out good, positive videos that support our narrative, whether it's joining organizations like Friends of Al-Aqsa, organizations which are within the law, whatever it may be, friends, all of this will mean nothing if you don't do this thing that I'm about to mention. All of this will mean nothing if you and I don't do this. What is it? فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ. فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ. Turn to your Lord. If you and I do not turn to our Lord, you can do everything. It will not bring about the desired result. Karne wali Zat, there is only one Zat. The being that makes things happen, there's only one being, and that being is Allah. When I say we need to turn to Allah, what am I referring to? What am I referring to? My young friends, what I'm referring to is simply this. What is happening in the dunya and happens in the dunya, all these calamities that you and I see, whether it's in the form of hurricanes, whether it's in the form of tornadoes, whether it's in the form of landslides, whether it's in the form of earthquakes, all this bloodshed, whatever we see in terms of calamity, what is the biggest cause of these things? Open the book of Allah. Allah will say, if you were to ask Allah, Allah, why is this happening? Why this earthquake happen? Why this happen? Why did this happen? What will Allah say? ما أصابكم من مصيبة فبما كسبت أيديكم ويعفو عن كثير. ما أصابكم من مصيبة فبما كسبت أيديكم ويعفو عن كثير. Any calamity that befalls you, it is because of your a'mal, is because of your guna. Allah saying this. Any calamity that befalls you is because of your guna, Allah saying. Allah saying, وَيَعْفُ عَنْ كَثِيرٍ. Majority of the times Allah overlooks it. Allah overlooks it, He forgives it. He doesn't send anything. Allah says, ظَهَرَ الْفَسَادُ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِي النَّاسِ لِيُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. Fasad, evil. Fitna, fasad has appeared in the land and sea. Why? Allah says, بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِي النَّاسِ. Again, it's because of your guna. So why does Allah send all this? لِيُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا. Just to give you a little bit of taste. This is not real punishment. Look at it like this. You've got a 6'6" guy and you've got a little kid in front of him, 3 years of age, and that little kid's done something wrong. So this 6'6" hatta katta guy just sort of like touches him like that. Don't do it again. Is he punishing him? He's not punishing him. That's not punishment for what that guy can do. If that guy were to hit him one, just give him one, he'd sink in the seventh earth. That's the strength that He's given him. So what you see in terms of calamities, this is not real punishment. This is not. Ask Qarun. Allah just introduced Himself to Qarun. His arrogance got the better of him. How did Allah introduce Himself to Qarun? What does Allah say? فَخَسَفْنَا بِهِ وَبِدَارِهِ الْأَرْضِ فَمَا كَانَ لَهُ مِنْ فِئَةٍ يَنْصُرُونَهُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُنْتَصِرِينَ. Down he went, down his palaces went, and he's going down, and he will keep on sinking right till the day of judgment. This is just Allah introducing Himself. This is just Allah introducing Himself. You know, like that 6'6" guy just touching that little kid like, this is just Allah. This is not even punishment. This is not what Allah can do. So what we see is just a little bit of taste. Why? لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. Maybe you'll realize, that little kid realized, okay, bye, you know what? I better sort myself out because this guy's gonna smash me if I don't sort myself out. So maybe when you and I see this, we might sort ourselves out and turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All this that is happening in the dunya is because of our a'mal. And if we don't make tawbah and turn to Allah, you can protest till your heart's content, till every single one of you lose your voice. It will not have the desired effect. Nothing will change. You know how khatarnak gunah are? How khatarnak gunah are? Let me just give you an example. Prophet ﷺ is reading Fajr Salah. It is Surah Rum. And he got confused in Salah. You know, Hafizes get mutashabihat, make a mistake, get confused with verses. So the Nabi of Allah has got confused in Salah. You know what the Prophet ﷺ said after Salah? Prophet ﷺ said, why is it that people read namaz with us that do la yuhsinun at-tahur? These are the words. They don't do wuzu properly. And they're reading namaz with us. They are the cause of this confusion. It's because of them I got confused in Quran. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. La yuhsinu at-tahur. What does it refer to? Muhaddithin have mentioned. No, did they leave something that's zururi in wuzu, or did they leave out some kazar? But if they've left out some zururi, the wuzu's not even done. Or did they leave out some sunnats in mustahabbats in wuzu? But the point I'm making is, if they've left out some sunnats and mustahab, they're not zururi in wuzu. They're perfected wuzu. So an amal here has not been done in a manner that is desired, where some sunnat or mustahab has been left. Look at the bebarkati of that. That has had an effect on who? Who was the Prophet ﷺ? You will not find a human being that's walked this earth that was more pure than the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. But that weakness in that amal had an effect on the heart of the Prophet, that the Prophet ﷺ got confused in the recitation. My young friends, you know these gunas that we do by day and by night. And astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. How many gunas? How many gunas? How many gunas that we commit day by day and by night? I mean, only last a week or two I was reading reports about, they had how many, organs they were selling. They're taking organs out of people, poor people, and they were selling them in Pakistan. They got caught, but about 300 organs they had. Look at the zulm. Look at the zina. Look at the abuse. I mean, how many times you and I commit the sin of zina by looking at ghair mahram women every single day on our phones, about 50 times a day. Every single one of us is committing guna upon guna upon guna. If a amal which is not being done proper was having an effect on the Prophet ﷺ, what do you think this is having an effect on the nizam of this universe? Obedience, dhikr sustains this universe. Dhikr sustains this universe. The nizam runs as it should be running. When there's no dhikr, what will happen? When there's not a single person on this earth that utters La ilaha illallah, that utters the name of Allah, there's the absence of zikr. This entire universe nizam darham barham. إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انْفَطَرَتْ وَإِذَا الْكَوَاكِبُ انْتَثَرَتْ. The stars will fall, the sun will become benur, the heavens will split, the seas will go on fire. This is in the absence of the dhikr of Allah, and when there is only disobedience on planet earth, this is what it does to the universe. So all what is happening at this moment in time is because of our disobedience. And if we don't turn to Allah, then nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. Don't be fazed by these nuclear powers. I'm not saying for 1 second that as a Muslim, as Muslims we don't make preparations. I'm not saying that for 1 second. My young friends, but for me all these are secondary. What's going around on social media at this moment in time? Okay, we should be doing this, we should be doing this, we should be doing this. I do not disagree with any of it as long as it's within the perimeters of the Sharia and within the limits of the Sharia. I have no problem with anything. But for me, these are all secondary and they will not have the desired effect if we don't do the real thing. Look at our khair al-Qurun. When I say don't be fazed by all these nuclear powers and everything that goes with it, it's meaningless. Just like you have these powers today that rule the dunya or assume or believe they themselves that they rule the dunya, whether it's America, whether it's Russia and China, more or less, these are the powers. When the Prophet ﷺ came, you had two powers that were running the dunya, and they were mighty powers. They were just like the powers that you have today. It was the Romans and Persians. But what did the believers have at that time? You tell me. What did they have? What don't you have today? You tell me. You want to go by Zahiri Asbab, and you and I believe is Zahiri Asbab will make a difference. My young friends, in terms of resources, I don't think you'll disagree. I'm just going to make this one point, guys, and I'm going to conclude if you allow me to do that. Jazakallah khair, ahsan al-jaza. In terms of dunyawi resources, what don't we have today? How many countries, how many Muslim countries do we have? 50 plus, I don't know the exact number, but we have 50 plus Muslim countries. What we got in terms of wealth, I don't think we can calculate it. Look how much we're spending just on football. How much money has been spent on football? How much did Qatar spend on the World Cup? Just making preparations for the World Cup. What are they going to do with the stadiums? How many billions they spent? What they spent on the World Cup, you know, half of these African countries don't have that as their yearly expenditure. How much are we spending now on people like Ronaldo and what else? You know, racing, now boxing, we went in. How much are we spending? The amount of wealth and resources that we've got in all these Muslim countries. Why do you think people want to do Raj and Hukumat and rule over Muslim countries? It's only for the resources. They say Pakistan is a nuclear power. And when you read about Pakistan, you know, mashallah, they'll say it's one of the best military, the army is one of the best. You know, when they have these competitions, it's always the Pakistanis that are winning. And you know, one of the best armies. So we've got, you know, we've got armies, we've got resources, we've got oil, we've got gas. In terms of number, how many have we got? Just under 2 billion. In a few years, Islam will be the biggest religion on planet Earth. So you know, you're looking at Zahir, because this insan is influenced by Zahir. Yeah. So when we look at this power, okay, hold on, let's not mess around with this one. It's got nukes, because Zahir, they look very, very powerful. I'm not saying for 1 second as Muslim countries we shouldn't be making preparations. What I'm saying is we're forgetting the asal. With all these resources, how much izzat have you and I got today? How much izzat? You can pretend, and I can pretend. There is no one more disgraced and humiliated more than us. If there's anyone that's got izzat at this moment in time, it's the people of Palestine, because they bow down to no one besides Allah. They would rather die with izzat than to live with zillat. And we would rather die with zillat than live with izzat. We can pretend that we've got izzat, we've got no izzat. When I say no izzat, how many times our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been disgraced? How many times? How many times? Who did anything about it? Who could do anything about it? There's under 2 billion. No one. No one. Somebody will do it again tomorrow. Somebody will burn another Quran tomorrow. Somebody insult the Prophet ﷺ again tomorrow. What is it have you and I got? What good are your resources? What good is your wealth? What good is the military and the planes and everything that you have? What good is anything? What good is anything if you can't even protect the honor of your Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? You know, people have got a lot of hope that this country will do this, this country will do this. This is this ajiz, fakir, miskeens, the lie. Only Allah knows the truth. They will do nothing. It's lip service. Everyone's got their own agenda, and it's just lip service. If something was going to be done, it's been happening for 75 years. Nothing has been done, and I can't see anything happening in the future. The only way forward is if you connect with Allah. You connect with Allah. Look at the believers in the early era. What did they have? What do we have in terms of resources? You know, the first battle of Badr, the 313. Yeah. And this was the ma'riqa, the decider between haqq and batil. truth and falsehood. Those that participate in this battle when it comes to Islam and ranks from amongst the Sahaba, they're the elite, the Badriyin. Allah said with regards to them in the Quran, they can do what they like, Allah's forgiven them. What did we have as an ummah in terms of resources when them 313 went out with the Prophet ﷺ to fight 1,000 strong? Who had the resources? Forget anything other than just look at the dua of the Prophet ﷺ. What was the dua the Prophet ﷺ was making on that day? Listen to his dua. Allahumma innahum jiya'un fashbi'hum. Allahumma innahum hufatun fahmilhum. Innahum uratun faksuhum. This was the dua my Nabi was making. Prophet ﷺ was crying to his Lord, crying to his Lord. And he was saying, Innahum jiya'un fashbi'hum. Oh my master, these companions of mine are hungry, feed them. Tell me, my young friend, how can you fight an enemy with your stomach empty? How can you fight? You fasted in month of Ramadan. What becomes of you and I when we know in the evening we're going to receive a meal, but during the day we've been fasted? We fast. We become frustrated. We lose our cool, anger. We find it difficult. You know the swords that they used to carry, today with full stomachs, two of us probably wouldn't be able to carry the sword of Umar. And they would have to fight in that state where the Prophet ﷺ is saying, okay, they're hungry. Look in Khandaq. Not only were they hungry, hunger was at such a level that the Sahaba had thin stones tied to their stomachs to ease the pain of hunger, and they were surrounded by 12,000 men. All the Arab tribes of Arabia had united to annihilate the believers from the face of the earth. And that time was so tense, so cold, so difficult, so hungry, that Allah describes that situation to وَبَلَغَتِ الْقُلُوبَ الْحَنَاجِرِ وَتَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ الظَّنُونَ هُنَالِكَ ابْتُلِيَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَزُلْزِلُوا زِلْزَالًا شَدِيدًا, that the believers were shaken, a mighty shaking. The Prophet ﷺ had 2 stones tied to his stomach. Balki, my young friends, you know when the Sahaba would stand in salah, I'm talking about the hunger so you get an idea. When they would stand in salah, how many of them would collapse in salah because their legs would not be able to carry them because of starvation. Look at Abu Huraira. Abu Huraira says, I would faint between the mimbar of the Prophet ﷺ and Hazrat Aisha's room. So he would faint in Riyazul Jannah. I would faint between the mimbar of the Prophet and Hazrat Aisha's room. I would collapse. Passers-by would pass by and they would place their feet on my neck thinking Abu Huraira has become insane. And then Abu Huraira says, it wasn't that the Abu Huraira had become insane or become a madman. It was hunger. Days would go by in which I wouldn't receive a morsel to eat, as a result of which my legs would not be able to carry me and I would fall unconscious. When they went to fight the Romans, and this was one of the powers that was ruling the world, how did they go? 600 kilometers is Tabuk, and between 10 of them, there's one savari, one camel. So if he's walking 9 miles and he's riding 1 mile, if that's how they sorted their turns out. 50 degrees centigrade. And what they're sustaining themselves on? A handful of dates. And when they run out, what were they sustaining themselves on? The stone of the date. Just, like bubblegum, kids just chew it all day because, so they were chewing just the date seed, sucking that the whole day. And they're going to fight the Romans that ruled half of the world. Look at it like this, some people from the Amazon basin today, in that state where they bichari hardly got any clothes to cover, and they're now going to fight America. There's no comparison. Prophet ﷺ, the dua he was making, innahum jiya'un fashbi'hum. He was making dua, innahum uratun faksum. Oh Allah, they semi-naked, clothe them. Forget, armor for protection. Some of them got one sheet of cloth, balki in namaz. The Prophet ﷺ had instructed the women. They used to read namaz, the men read mix-up, then the chula mix-up, and the women mix-up after. So the Prophet ﷺ in namaz had instructed the sahabiyat Okay, you know when you go into sajda, don't raise your head straight away. Just wait for a second. Let the men raise their heads first. Why did the Prophet ﷺ tell the Sahabiyat to do this? Because some of the Sahaba had only one sheet to cover their body. So there was fear that if they raised their heads sooner, straight away, their eyes may fall upon the satar of some Sahabi in front of them. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ told them, okay, just wait a second, let the men raise their heads first, and then you raise your heads. This was the state of the companions of Rasulullah ﷺ. Innahum hufatun, barefooted, and they're going to fight. And they're carrying sticks. Half of them even got swords. They're carrying spades. This was the situation of 313. You tell me, my young friend. You tell me what happened. Which was the army that was victorious? The army of Allah. This just was the start. They came in Badr with 3,000. Again, I haven't got time to explain, guys, unfortunately. But it is what it is. And I'm just going to wrap it up. I feel bad within myself, but it is what it is. They came in Uhud, 3,000. Muslims were 1,000 at the beginning. The hypocrites, they ran off, left with 700. For every one, there's around 5 non-believers. They were defeated. In Khandaq, they all came. They were defeated. Every battle thereafter, the army of Allah, and I'm purposely using these words, the army of Allah, that would prostrate by night, fast by day, and elevate the kalima of Allah by day. Nothing stood in front of them. In battles, there were 5,000, 10,000. The Persians came in 100,000, 200,000. When they would see them, and there were times where you'll find in a hadith, they would walk over water as one walks over soft sand. And when the Persian would see them, they would say, Diwan Ahmad, Diwan Ahmad. These are not human beings, these are jinnat. And they would run from the battlefield. Rome and Persia melted before them like snow melts under the hot sun. Nothing can stand before Allah's name. Nothing can stand before Allah. You can have as many nukes as you want. The army of Allah cannot be defeated. You know when Jalut and Talut, وَقَاتَلَ دَاوُودُ جَالُوتَ. I keep on getting confused between Jalut, Talut. So you had Jalut and you had Talut's enemy. You had Talut the king and Jalut the enemy. When they set off, there was about 70,000-80,000 of them. They disobeyed Allah. They became puss. Only 313 went forward. As Dawood alayhi salatu wasalam went forward to fight Jalut. He has no weapons. Talut is giving him weapons. And this was as Jalut's response, as Dawood respond. If I have Allah with me, then I need no weapons. And if I don't have Allah with me, I can take all the weapons, it'll make no difference. And all he took was a catapult. And that's it. In the name of Allah, he went. He shot him with a catapult between his eyes. And he was finished. And his army was defeated. This is the law of Allah. You turn to Allah, you can have no asbab. And Allah will take care of your affairs. Just like Allah did in how many battles? They came with sticks. And they would raise their hand and they would see the head fall off the enemy right before their eyes. Because Allah had said, Min al-malaikati musawwimin. Min al-malaikati murdifin. Allah takes care of His affairs. And if today, the more we turn to Allah, the problem is, and this is what we don't realize, is you and I are the cause of what is happening in the dunya. But we're quick to blame the leaders, we're quick to blame everyone, but nobody sees his own weakness. Alanke, my young friends, you and I are the problem until we don't rectify ourselves. If every every single one of us just in this gathering turns to Allah, my young friends, the more obedience there is, Allah says, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلُ الْقُرَىٰ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. If the people believe and fear Allah, what does Allah say? I will open the heavens, it will rain of barakat. What does Allah say in the Quran? وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُعَذِّبَهُمْ وَأَنْتَ فِيهِمْ وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ مُعَذِّبَهُمْ يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. Allah will never punish them whilst the Prophet ﷺ is alive, and Allah will never punish them whilst they turn to Allah, make istighfar. Allah says, أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُ وَعِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. Who will inherit the land? Who will it? Salihun. If you look at throughout history, who's made a difference? It was always the pious kings, Salahuddin, Nuruddin, Harun Rashid, Sayyidina Umar Farooq, Uthman, Ali, Umar. It was always the pious kings and leaders that made the difference. My young friends, if we turn to Allah, you will see change come about. Not just in the blessed land of Sham and Palestine. My young friends, you will see change come about in every corner of the globe. Why do you think the birds make dua and the fish make dua? Because when you do good, it affects them. It affects the entire universe. Dhikr benefits the entire universe. This is why they make dua. So Allah give me the tawfiq. That's the least that we can do. Every Miktoba and every single day, in every namaz, that you make dua for them. Balki throughout the day, that is what occupies your mind. And you know, at the same, when you make that dua, Allah, you know, whatever's happening is happening because of me. Allah, it's because of my wrongdoings. I've transgressed, I've wronged. Oh my Master, I promise you that I will never wrong you after this day. Oh my Master, have mercy upon the entire ummah of my Habib, and especially the people of Gaza, especially the people of Palestine. Come as come, bas iska rata laga lo. Whether you do anything else or not, come as come, come as come, come as come. Just keep on repeating these words. Inshallah, inshallah, this will attract Allah's mercy. Allah give me tawfiq, Allah give you tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.